Hello, everyone. Welcome to our G2I community event today. Our topic is using AI for better architecture decisions. This is the third session of our 6-month exploration of AI-powered development. Today, we're going to hear from Vladimir Ivanov from our developer community at G2I, where he shares his expertise on leveraging AI tools in software architecture. Specifically, we'll be looking at generating architectural diagrams using AI and analyzing potential changes in your system design. My name is Michelle Bakels. I'm going to be the host today. I am the Senior Technical Program Director at G2I, and I organize React Miami Conf. Most of you are a part of our G2I community here, but if you're just joining us and you don't know about G2I, really quickly, our mission is to create custom talent pipelines so that the companies of our clients don't have to. We have a unique approach that combines customized vetting, flexible terms, and tailored customer service that gives us an advantage. So whether you're hiring 1,000 engineers to work on complex AI projects or you need a highly skilled individual for your MVP, we can scale to your needs. And lastly, since we grew up in the open source ecosystem, we host our annual Software Developers Conference, React Miami, in April. All of those details are now live on reactmiami.com. For our event today, we just have a few rules of engagement. We have 2 different places where you can share your thoughts. We have the chat and we have a Q&A section. So feel free at any time to chime in with your thoughts, share anything that you're thinking in the chat as we go along, as Vladimir is presenting. He's going to keep presenting, but we'll be able to read through some of those things later. And if you have any questions, we're going to have a Q&A at the end of the session with Vladimir. And any questions that you have for him, put them in there and we will get to them at the end. So while Vladimir is not going to be reading the chat while he's presenting, there is also a way to have emoji reactions throughout the presentation. He will be able to see those. I like them. They're great, especially if you're presenting, you can't see your audience. Vladimir, if he makes a joke, throw a couple laughing emojis in there. I think it helps. But yeah, any questions we'll save for the end, and we'll be happy to answer as many as we possibly can. So a little bit about our guest today. Vladimir is a professional software architect and senior engineering manager with over 15 years of experience. He specializes in designing scalable software systems and leading engineering teams. He also has a course on business-oriented system design. He's going to share a promo code at the end of the session for G2I members to get a discount on his course. So without further ado, I'm going to kick it over to Vladimir. He's going to take it from here. Welcome, Vlad.
Thank you very much, Michelle. So yeah, hello everyone. I hope it's gonna be like very insightful half an hour. I'm gonna start sharing my screen so you can really enjoy today's experience. So today we're talking about better architecture decisions with AI. As it was already said, my name is Vladimir Ivanov. Right now I'm working as a senior engineering manager at Bolt. Here's my merch. I also consult like companies and startups and so on. And I also have the Architecture Weekly newsletter and YouTube channel, which gonna feature some great guests on software architecture very soon. So today I would like to know whom I'm talking to, right? Because I already shared who am I, but I'm not sure who exactly is attending this session today. Thea, can you please run the poll? Okay, very nice. Let's spend a minute figuring this out. It says host and panelists can't vote. So it's all yours. All right. How can I see the results? Okay, someone is not a developer. Please write in the chat who you are. Don't forget to switch the thing to everyone if you're writing anything. 70% full stack. That's great. That's awesome. That actually means that this content will be super relevant for you. All right. So yeah, So today we're trying to figure out how to use artificial intelligence for software architecture. Um, and the first question is, oh, of course, like where do we get all those AI tools? And to the like we're very fortunate that there are a huge amount of tools nowadays that we can leverage. Because like a year ago it was like only ChatGPT, but right now it's plenty of those. So what you can use? So first of all, there's Anthropic with Claude model. There's ChatGPT, free and paid, and now there's some weird stuff with professional, but all right. There are a lot of integrated tools like Copilot from Microsoft. There's a JetBrains AI assistant integrated in all their IDs. There's a Cursor ID. There's Windsurf, and there are some other IDs, and they're like on hype right now, getting a lot of investments and so on and so on. Yeah, I see people in the chat is writing, "I love Windsurf." Yeah, I tried it out. It's kind of fun, but it has some downsides as well. But yeah, all right. The brand new thing is DeepSeek from our Chinese friends, right? So that's interesting. We're touching on this topic today as well. And of course, there are plenty of local LLMs that you can use, and I will show you today how it happens. All right. So yeah, talking about local LLMs. So there is a tool called Ollama. This is the thing that allows you to run local LLMs, so you don't have to rely on these APIs or chat websites, but you can rather download a model and chat it yourself, like with the whole privacy that you can get. Like the data is not going anywhere. The model is local. You can like switch off the internet and it will still work. So that's a great option for flying, for example, right? So if you want to have a model, you just install a model and then say like Ollama run DeepSeek R1 or Ollama 3.1, and you get a chat experience with a local large language model. Okay, right? So yeah, or Ollama run Ollama 3.1. All right. So today's goals, what we're gonna do. So first of all, we want to generate some architecture diagrams with the help of AI. And we want to analyze some architecture and make some conclusions and changes with the help of AI. Okay. All right. So, like just showing you examples would be like not very fun. So let's imagine we're kind of in a story. And our premise is that like the food delivery startup, let's call it Foodie, it was just founded. Okay, there's no lines of code written yet. And we just joined the team as software architect or like, I don't know, staff engineer or founding engineer and so on. And right now we need to make a bunch of decisions, architecture decisions, right? Like what we're gonna do, what technology we're gonna use, what are the communication protocols, like what data storage we're gonna use for our data, and so on and so on. So we need to decide how everything is gonna work in our food delivery application. And of course, like we have a lot of experience, but we also want to move fast. And that's why we're using AI to help us doing some tedious work, all right? So we want to design the mobile application, and we kind of want to understand our module composition. Like, do we have like a storage model, authentication model, how we have our screens organized, how we have our state organized in the mobile application, and so on and so on. Like, we want to decide the network protocols, where we store local data, and so on. So what do we do? Well, we go to a chat model and we somehow have a paid access there. It's like $20. And we want to ask it like, okay, generate me an architecture diagram. And we kind of want to use React Native mobile application because this is what we do with TypeScript, right? And the application should be for food ordering similar to Uber Eats, okay? And we wait for some time. And what we get as a result, if you expect a fancy diagram, like you would be disappointed because this is what ChatGPT will give you. It's just pseudo graphics and it's like a bunch of components. If you try to analyze what's happening there, it actually doesn't give you the architecture of a mobile application. It rather gives you an architecture of the entire service. Okay, so the mobile application is just one rectangle here, And then there's like API gateway, some backend services, notification services, and so on and so on. The diagram actually goes down, and there are like storages, payment services, and so on and so on. So it's actually wrong. You can't just ask for something and rely on the AI that it will just give you the thing that you would expect. It actually doesn't. So it gives you actually a full solution instead of a mobile app, despite being explicitly asked what's going on. Second, it gives you some pseudo graphic, which is not perfect for supporting, and it doesn't answer your question. Like, you don't have this module breakdown or local storage and so on and so on. So it actually doesn't give you the answer that you asked it for. So let's try again. Let's try to tune the prompt so we get better information. So what we do next is we appreciate the work, okay? Like, because when Skynet comes, we want them to spare our lives. But then we say, actually, this is not what we want, right? So now we want the model to focus on the mobile application only and not the whole solution. So that's the first problem that we saw in the diagram. Second problem is that we don't want some pseudographics. We need the more sophisticated solutions. And we, as developers, we better expect a diagram in the form of code, because everything is code, right? Logic is code, infrastructure is code, and diagrams are code too. So we ask LLM to use diagrams as code, okay? And we actually want to tell the model how to behave, all right? So we don't want just to reason from some generic perspective, but we want to focus the model on some expertise, okay? So to pay more attention to this. And this thing really important. So for example, in my ChatGPT installation, there's a setting there, and you can put there a system prompt, like something that will be included in the context of every request that you imagine. And there you want the model to be like an expert in the field the question is asked about. So here we're just adding in the prompt, like, act as a world famous mobile application architecture expert, okay? Okay, so we made change to the prompt. We're following up on the same conversation, and let's see what we get. And here's the result. So it's actually becomes really, really good, okay? So as you see here, right now we have the actual modules of a React Native application. So you can see a UI layer, you have data layer, you have state management, you have integration with the third-party SDKs, you have native modules if you need some, and you have local storage. All right. So that's great. And we have the links between the things. We have color coding, we have an end user. So it became much better. So you see like how the refining prompt actually improves the result like 50 times better. And also, this is just a visualization. The actual output of the model here is the plant UML code. So it's UML. So you can actually see the code here, and you can change it. You can support it. You can even put this into GitHub next to your application, so right in the repository of your future mobile application, and change it when your application changes too, okay? So that's much better. And now we can actually reason about our application, right? So what state management it will use, okay? So it's reduxed plus context and like reducers. We actually see that there will be a local data storage for some caching data. And like it will use either async storage or SQLite, but we can make a decision later in the software lifecycle, and so on and so on. Okay, so you can actually show this to your stakeholders, to your investors, or to future developers, so that you're aligned on the application architecture. Okay, so that's already a solid artifact. Okay, so next one. Now we want to analyze if this architecture is actually good. And then let's like stop using ChatGPT. Let's go to the local model and see how it performs. Okay. So then we want to have some more diagrams. Okay, like the structure diagrams, the component diagrams is great, but we actually want how to understand how the particular processes will happen in our application. And the most crucial moment in the food delivery application is the moment when you place the order and pay. Okay? So for that, let's ask our local model about the sequence diagram. So generate me a plant UML sequence diagram for the food delivery mobile application, finishing the order and making the payment. And now this is what we get. Indeed, it will yield some plant UML, but then I will copy paste it to plant UML and have this visualization. So you can see here several components. So there's a user, there's our food delivery app, there's some kind of a restaurant API that actually the LLM hallucinated because it doesn't have the context, right? And then there's some payment gateway. And you see like the process described. So it sends the order confirmation request first. If the order confirmed, then it initiates the payment process. And then it will like send the credit card info to payment gateway and then get the result back. I would like you to like stop for 10 seconds and try to analyze what's not perfect in this diagram. What are the decisions that the LLM made that you would like to challenge? Think about it. I have at least 4 problems with this diagram that I'm gonna cover further. Okay, I hope you have your ideas, so I'm sharing mine. So, any issues with the payment flow design? So first of all, like we're sending credit card details. This is kind of unfortunate. We don't want to do that. We want to have some kind of card on files or tokenized payment flow for better security, because otherwise we risk actually like leaking the payment data. So that's first problem. Second problem is that we don't see any leverage of secure protocols, right? HTTPS, SSL pinning, encryption, nothing is covered on the diagram. So we want to make sure that we actually use those tactics. Third one is that we want to have like better timing for order status updates and see if it's like paid or not. So that's missing. And we want to have the error handling, because there's no error handling shown on the diagram. What happens if the payment fails? The diagram doesn't tell us that. Or any other errors like network or logic or anything else. Okay, so local model can be not perfect. Let's ask ChatGPT. It will catch like another 4 problems there, but actually it won't be able to catch the real business problems. Getting back to this diagram, it first confirms the order with a restaurant, and then it tries to authorize the funds on the payment method. That's a problem. And yeah, this is what exactly John is writing to the chat, that the restaurant confirms order before payment is made. They might be confirmed but unpaid orders. Exactly. So payment methods will not always have the sufficient funds for the order. So that will create a huge problem, and you want to do that like in the other order. So you first authorize enough funds, make sure that the payment gets through, and only then you actually create an order with a restaurant. So this is what I will talk about here. So LLMs actually didn't catch the business problems, okay? So it's like doesn't have the appropriate order. There's no indication on how do we make sure that we don't lose payments, right? So there is no dangling payments there. And actually how we avoid double spending. How we can make sure that we only charge the customer once per order and not several times. So that can be a problem too. Okay, now we can fix it. So now seeing the problem out of the sequence diagrams, we can ask LLM to improve it, to elaborate on the diagram. Okay, so then we can tell LLM ChatGPT that, hey, go calculate the so we want to calculate the cost and charge the user first, and only then create an actual order. Then we want to use the secure process for payment, and we want to include the proper error handling, because like we want to really see if the payment failed. So we create we ask LLM to create a new diagram, and again it becomes much better. Okay, so now we figure out the cost first, Then we start the payment process, and we include the security tactics here, like 3D secure OTPs, and all of that stuff. It still doesn't mention any secure protocols, but okay, this is what we are here for, right? And then only if the payment was successful, we can create the order, okay? And if it failed, we're not creating an order whatsoever. So yeah, like you see how we improved the diagram. But yeah, that's a huge development, right? So the diagram became much better in a matter of like a couple of minutes instead of us redrawing it for half a day. So that's a great help with of LLMs. Okay, so what we learned today. So first of all, AI can create very solid diagrams, okay? But you need to put effort into formulating the context and doing this proper prompt engineering, okay? So you really need to infer the role that the LLM should play. You need to provide the appropriate context for this stuff, and you need not to trust to the generated content right away, because LLMs will make errors, it will make hallucinations, and you need to recheck basically everything and try to analyze the problems. The good news, though, is that you can use LLMs to analyze those problems, and if you combine different LLMs and different solutions, they will see the problems of other generated stuff. So that's first thing. Second thing is, yeah, AI can analyze the diagrams and catch significant problems. You need to still recheck for the business problems too. And yeah, it's not perfect. It can still really miss on the real world business issues. But that's why you're getting paid for, right? So you're an expert of business and you know how to bring the technology solutions to the business problems. And this is why you have the job in the first place. And the AI is just a tool that you can leverage for doing better and faster work. Okay, that's it for content for today. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please go to this to my personal website. So you will find a blog, you will find a consultation page there, and actually run a business-oriented system design course, which helps understand how to build real-world scalable systems that solve business problems that actually earn money for their runners. Okay, and for this lovely community, for G2I members, I'm offering a 20% discount code with this G2I 20 code. So mention it if you're signing up for the course. I also have a 2-hour version of this workshop where we do much more. We're working on architecture decision records, we're working on the entire RFC documents, and we're working on analyzing the architecture decisions. That's it for today for the content. I'm all here for your questions. Thank you very much.
Awesome. Thank you, Vladimir. Appreciate it. That was really great overview of using these AI tools for architecture design. I really love, just taking a moment to try and find the mistakes or get the gaps with the designs that are just given to us from an AI model. Sometimes it's really easy to be like, oh, this looks right at first glance and just want to go with it. But like you mentioned at the end, like we're getting paid for a reason. Our job is here for a reason. At the end of the day, there's not going to be anybody that understands the context, the business, use case, the customers like our companies. And so while it can be a tool to help us move quicker, we have to use our best judgment and the knowledge and context that we understand to actually create like good work. So I would say let's move into the Q&A section. Please feel free to throw any questions that you have for Vladimir in the Q&A. We're going to get started answering them. You had some, great comments. First of all, I think everybody kind of chuckled at the Skynet reference. We're like, we don't want, hopefully things don't get too crazy, but yeah. um, but yeah, also, Thea mentioned it's impressive how fast these things respond. It's true. But yeah, so the first question is from Ethan. What resources or learning paths would you recommend for developers looking to master prompt engineering?
Okay, that's a great question. Uh, Unfortunately, I don't know any books or courses or on prompt engineering, and moreover, I don't think that should be a thing in the first place. Basically, prompt engineering is thinking, okay? And what I personally do is I'm just gathering the experience through the communication with such AI tools, okay? So you just basically ask a question and then you see how it just goes into the wrong direction and you start fixing this, right? As you saw in the example with this mobile application architecture, like the LLM gave completely like wrong answer, right? So at this point, you just sit and think, okay, what LLM actually did wrong? What context it missed? Okay, so it missed that we want exactly the mobile application, right? So we're not talking about anything else. We want particular things in this diagram. So we want modules, we want technologies, we want like some other aspects, right? And then you evolve your prompt step by step. But what was helpful is some advices on the internet, on Twitter, like system prompts that I include in our models, and several hints basically here. So first of all, try to tell it to assume some like world expert role in the thing that you are talking about. That's one. Second thing is tailor the responses. So for example, LLMs tend to write a lot of explanations about the code they're generating when you ask it for code. But you can include something in the system prompt, like when I ask for code, just give me the code and nothing else, no explanation, no comments, and so on. So this kind of fine tuning. And yeah, so basically just observe what you see, what are the downsides of the outputs that you see, and try to improve the system prompt for it. Another hint is that what you can include in the system prompt, you can include information about yourself, who you are, what kind of job do you do, like what kind of software solutions do you work on regularly, so it can jump faster into the context that you are in. So basically, share as much context about your situation and your job helps a lot with the relevancy of the answers. Okay.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. It's really interesting how like telling it to adopt a persona really helps. I also like uh I also like coaching it on exactly what kind of answer. I can't tell you how many times I write in like make your response 12 words or less. Like, um, and it can usually like get to the meat of something much quicker.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I think that's so true for prompt engineering and, as it is true for software development too, like, the best way to learn is to do it, and to just get real-time feedback. The next question comes from John. Are there any underrated or lesser known AI tools you'd recommend exploring?
Uh,
Give us the deep
that
cuts.
Yeah, that's a great question as well. However, I think like the things that I tried out, I already mentioned, so including this Cursor and Windsurf and local models. Uh, the problem is that the industry is running so fast that it's literally like every 2 weeks there is a new coding AI assistant ID complete solution there. So you have right now this ChatGPT Canvas, you have Juni from JetBrains, you have ChatGPT Operator, there's this DeepSeek thing. So it's literally every new week there's a new AI tool. And I think that you can kind of try it out, right? So, like for example, I tried out Cursor, I tried out Windsurf, I tried out this bolt new thing. For example, is
Mhm.
worth like looking at. So it's kind of thing that can generate a web solution for you and even deploy it right away for the demonstration. For example, right now as a side project, I'm trying to get my e-commerce shop developed from scratch using those tools. So I don't want to code everything like from scratch, but I really want some speed up. So what I started was this bolt new thing. So we just generated all the front end. I asked separately to generate the backend as well, But the problem is that it can generate a lot of code, but once you try to deploy it as a complete solution, this is where things break down and where you need to step in and do the rest of the job. So it's like good milestone, but it's just like 40% of the work. So you need to do everything else yourself. So yeah, that's the situation.
Yeah, I've heard really, really good things about Bolt, by the way. It's kind of going viral, I think, but yeah, it seems like pretty legit. I got to try that out. The one that I try is V0. I recently rebuilt my personal website with V0. And I was like, I want it to look like there's this it sounds ridiculous, but there's this like shampoo brand like that I really love their packaging and marketing. And I'm like, I want my personal website to have the same brand design as this company
Nice, nice.
that makes like spa products, bath products, and it did a really good job. So, yeah, it's really fun to like have these side projects to work on with these tools. Okay, so the next question, what are the best next steps someone new to this should take to implement AI tools into their architecture workflow?
Uh, that's a great question. Um, Best next steps someone new to this should. First of all, I would recommend to run an AI tool as an assistant for every step in your architecture development process. Typically, what we start with are the requirements. So once you gather the requirements from the stakeholder, you can run it through the AI and ask like, hey, do we have the full set? Do we have any contradictory requirements? Can you run the analysis of what are the most important requirements we want to address for, right? So that's the first step. This is the help with the requirements. Then you can make some kind of architecture decisions, like we're going with the PostgreSQL for the backend, we're going with the TypeScript with Node.js, we're going to host in AWS, we're going to use React Native for the mobile app, and so on and so on. So you can write down the bunch of architecture decisions and ask AI to challenge those decisions against the requirements that we have, and ask like, hey, what technology and organizational risks we would face if we go with those decisions. And then you will have a bunch of risks, and then you can evaluate yourself, are those risks acceptable in your business situation? So that would help. And then if you like validated all these choices, you can try to come up with some kind of a component diagram or like sequence diagrams. And then again, validate with AI, like what risks do you see? Are there any problems? Am I missing anything here? And so on. So it's basically your second brain with like huge expertise, right? So basically you should like drive the process, but this is your help, right? To review everything that you do. So yeah.
Yeah, that's great advice. I love definitely like pinging questions, implementation questions off of AI, like, hey, I've done this like this. Like, do you see any issues with it? Do you think there's
Mhm.
something I can change here to make things faster or
Yeah.
optimize it? Whatever. It's always a good tool for like getting feedback.
Yeah.
The next question we have here is how do you decide which type of AI Whoa, I jumped. Sorry. How do you decide which type of AI model architecture is best suited for a specific application?
Uh, I'm not sure I understand the question. What do you mean, like what AI to use for different architecture activities, or or like I'm not sure I'm getting the question.
Okay. So Ty, this is Ty's question. So Ty, if you want to clarify in the chat, then we can come back to the question
Yeah.
because I'm not
Yeah.
sure. I want to assume. But feel free, Ty, to elaborate in the chat, and then we'll, in the meantime, move on to the next question from Sam. What are your initial thoughts on DeepSeek?
Yeah, thanks for this question. So, like, I think it definitely uh, worth trying out and see how it performs. What I did so far, I installed the small version for the local model. It's just like around 5 GB, and like it's not fantastic. Like it performs poorly compared to even to Llama 3. However, like what I heard is that the small version is very poor, and you need to bump to like 70 gigabytes version to try it out and see the capabilities. And there's the full version, which is 700 gigabytes, and like unfortunately, I don't have the hardware to run it like locally. So yeah, that's first thing. Second thing is that you can try out the web version as well, and it kind of performs well, but it's somehow slow so far. I don't know if it's like the compute problem or not, but definitely worth checking out. So, but remember that there are like uh, privacy concerns there. So it is known that DeepSeek tries to gather everything about you, like IP, cookie, anything that it can extract from your web browser. So, like, make sure at least not to feed some confidential information there. That would be a blunder.
Yeah, generally good advice, I think,
Yeah.
to follow. Um, Good, cool. There's a question from Victor. How do you see LLMs being integrated with other AI tools for a more complex workflow?
um, I really want to have AI and LLMs as integrated as it is in the IDE. So they are kind of more autonomous. Because right now, what you do, for example, with Cursor or Windsurf, you're like, hey, generate me the code for this solution. And then you need to apply it, merge it, resolve the conflicts, test it, and so on and so on. Then make a pull request, etc. What would be nice is to give a business task to it. Say like, hey, I want to implement a user management capability in my application. Do whatever is needed, okay? And then it will come up with a bunch of changes, and then it should come up with unit tests for that as well. And then it should run the test on the front end too, okay? And then come up with a report. Like I implemented this thing here, implemented like a controller on the back end, a UI on the front end. Then I generated a bunch of tests with Selenium. I actually ran this tests. This is the test report, and this is the demo I actually recorded for you so that you can check out how it works and if you like it in the first place. So, but I think like we're moving very fast in this direction. So like we're only in this game for a couple of years, right? But we already have this kind of semi-autonomous agents that are able to resolve like business tasks to a certain degree, like this JetBrains Junior thing, and so on. So yeah, this will be the reality very soon.
Yeah, I think you're spot on with that. Yeah, it's going to just be like an assistant all the time available.
Yeah. So and like the conclusion from that is that obviously you should stay technical, but your primary expertise should go into understanding the business and how
Mhm.
to bring the technologies to solve those business problems. That's why I'm writing the course basically. So
Yeah. No, it's a really good point because I mean, I've had jobs in the past as an engineer where for whatever it's worth, it was decided like, let's try, there's like a scrum team, right? And there's a business analyst on the team. And kind of the role of the business analyst was sort of to insulate the developers from the business. And I think for some time that was a kind of like a common thing, like let's keep the developers isolated so that they could just focus on coding. But now it's quite a bit different. And I think like I agree with you, understanding the business, understanding the problems that you're trying to solve is really important. So I think you would want to unsilo your developers if they are siloed,
yeah.
give them that exposure so they really understand. Yeah. Okay, so we have another question from Ty. How do you envision the next generation of AI models improving over our current limitations?
Um, Next generation of AI models. Yeah, as already said, I think it will become more autonomous and more self-check because right now it's just a bunch of generated stuff and there's no reflection on whether it's good or bad or does it solve the problem in the first place. So I think it will evolve into this stuff. So like I see only the development focus on the AI right now, but there's a huge potential with using AI for testing, right? So if you have your user stories in place and they have a product in place, then there's no limitation for AI tools to just generate the Selenium things, right? Or like Playwright or whatever other framework you would use, and then verify the implementation. So I think like when we talk about like disappearing jobs, I think that the junior QA and middle QA positions will vanish first.
Mhm. Interesting. All right, so I have another uh comment slash question. You've worked on some interesting projects at Bolt and other companies. Could you tell us about one where AI really made an impact in your software architecture or project results? Was the payment example based on something that you've implemented?
No, payment example was based on the existing implementation where like kind of all those business thing were already figured out as a problem, right? Speaking about like AI exactly, not AI, but both used to use some kind of set of rules for fraud. So like uh, giving you some business context. So when you have a lot of people on the platform that write the taxes or order food and so on, you will eventually have like some kind of a 1% of people who want to earn money to leverage like the platform, the marketplace, to basically have a ride for free or like earn some money using like the credit the fished credit cards and so on and so on. So they are fraudsters. Okay. And what we used to do, we just had like a huge if else tree. Like if the user doesn't have insufficient fund, if there were like fraudulent orders before, if like the phone number doesn't match the country, and so on and so on. Like that performed somehow, but it wasn't perfect. So what Bolt actually did, it employed machine learning at scale to figure out the score of fraudsters, and it improved the fraud rates. So it decreased it drastically. So we're doing better than even the goals that we set for ourselves. So their machine learning's improved a lot. Regarding the AI making an impact in the software architecture, I would say that like the startup that I'm consulting, it's called supply.eu. The folks started with some old school ABI advantage for computer vision and for extracting information from the documents. Okay, when ChatGPT came with its vision capability, it just decreased the cost like 10 times for the extracting this information. So the technology actually completely changed the scope. And I don't know if you've seen the news, but AB is firing a lot of people because they're essentially losing the market share due to all these AI tools. So
Which
like
company?
AB. Let me write it.
I don't think I've seen this.
Uh,
No.
they're pretty big. So like a lot of stuff for PDF is built by them. But
Mm,
yeah, like that's another era coming their way. So
wow. Yeah. Wild.
yeah,
Um,
exactly.
yeah. So, okay, so it's 11:43. We are towards the end of our session. I wanted to thank you for your time and also give you a chance again to mention the course that you have. And also, I always ask every guest to leave us with a parting thought. It could be something related to your presentation, it can be some existential wisdom, it can be a joke, it's whatever you want. But any last thought that you want to share before we part ways?
Yeah. So like my own philosophy that I want to share and imply on the world is that we owe growing to ourselves. So never stop learning. Make yourself powerful from like business perspective, money perspective, and make yourself able to impact this world in a good manner. And like how we do that as developers, like we learn and we figure out how to build better products and like grow in every aspect of our lives. So read books, pass courses, create your courses yourselves. And yeah, so good luck in your job. Okay.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And just a reminder, guys, Vladimir has a course. We're going to be sharing the details. He offered everyone 20% off for the G2I community. So again, we'll share that Slack,
Yeah.
email, all the usual places. Thank you so much again, Vladimir. Thank
Thank you.
you, Thea, behind the scenes for putting this together. And
Yeah.
we will see you at the next event. Bye,
Thank
guys.
you very much. Bye bye.